Hi there, and welcome to another Eurogamer Newscast, this time all about a certain game called Elden Ring, which you might have heard of. My name is Tom Phillips, I'm Deputy Editor, and joining me are our intrepid team of Eurogamer reporters. It's Ishraq Subhan. Say hello, Ishraq.
Hello.
Victoria Kennedy.
Hello.
And Ed Nightingale.
Hello.
And this morning, we're recording on Thursday the 17th, and this morning the first big patch for Elden Ring after its launch came out, and it has surprised a lot of people for the stuff that it contains. Things that people just did not think that the game was ever going to include, and here they are, not 2 weeks since the game arrived. Talking about this patch is probably a good place to start, because it does change a lot of our sort of thoughts on the game and a lot of the stories that we've been covering, like speedruns. But yeah, Ed, you've been playing Elden Ring and you have written the story this morning about the patch. What does it add, and are you surprised?
What does it add? It adds quite a lot. This isn't just a quick bug fix patch, which in itself would have been welcome, I'm sure, especially for PC players. There are plenty of bugs that are fixed. Some quite noticeable ones around weapon scaling. I think people noticed that when you upgrade your weapons, it wasn't scaling properly with your attributes, and that's now been fixed. So tweaks like that are very much welcome. But what they've also done are made some actual quite big additions, which might affect the gameplay. And they've also made some balance changes. So in terms of the additions, one of the big ones is that they've now added markers on the map for NPCs. So whenever you meet an NPC, there's now a little marker for it on the map. So that might be a merchant, it might be a quest giver, etc., etc. Now, this is quite a useful thing because the map is very big, and without any markers on it, although you can add your own, it's quite difficult to find your way around. You know, it can be very easy to lose track of certain quests. There's no quest log. And a lot of people really like that about the game. It's a game that you have to discover things yourself. It's not just going into a quest log and seeing a bullet point list of, right, this is the thing. These are the things I need to tick off. It's about stumbling upon things yourself and discovering things. But this now makes that a little bit more clear in terms of where the NPCs are. So it's still not clear necessarily what you do on the quests, but it's much easier to find those quest givers and NPCs. I think in particular it's useful for the merchants. There are quite a few merchants dotted around. They all look the same apart from a different color. So it's quite easy to lose track of where are they and what do they sell. And at least now, you know, okay, there's a merchant there, a merchant there. So that can be quite handy. But I think there's a bit of a discourse around it in terms of, is this changing the way people will play the game? I will say that maybe it would have been nice to have this as an option to add to the map, on the map screen, where you can just click a button to see them, or remove them. At the moment, as far as I can see, having just checked, they are automatic. So any NPC that you've met, there's now an icon on the map.
So you have to meet them first?
Yeah. So
okay.
It's not just that, you know, oh, there's a NPC over here that you missed. You have to have met them. That said, there's one that I haven't actively spoken to, but I knew from a friend that they're there, and they have now been added to the map. And I've never spoken to them, but I have
you
gone
walked past them?
I did and missed them. So
there you
go.
That's cold, dude. That's cold.
Yeah, that's my fault, I guess.
He knows that you were talking about him to your friend, and
why would you come to me?
Well, if you played, you'll know, but he whistles at you, and I ignored it.
We don't do catcalling here.
Exactly.
I don't have time for that.
So that's one of the big major additions. What they've also added is a whole new NPC, whose name I've now forgotten. Jarben, who's a whole new NPC. And then there are some new quests as well for existing NPCs. I think one of those people thought was a bit broken, so it seems like they've added more content to that, which is great. Maybe these quest lines were intended from the start and they just didn't get time to finish or polish them before release. Could potentially be that. The other side of things then is rebalancing. Now, I'm slightly biased because I play as a sorcerer, and basically all the sorceries have been boosted, so I'm really happy about that. But there are people who already believe that playing as a sorcerer is easy mode, which it kind of is, but
Yes, I've
it's
heard
there.
this.
I'll take it. It's there. I will take it. They wouldn't have made it in the game if it wasn't possible. But yeah, they've boosted the some of those abilities. One of those actually is a glint. This is going to be nothing if you haven't played it, but one of the glintstone weapons, basically a bit like Final Fantasy, where you've got like fire, Firager, whatever you want to call them. The glintstone spells are named after rocks. So there's like pebble that you start with, and then it leads up to like great shard, and the pebble was really overpowered compared to the other ones, so they've kind of balanced that, which actually is a lot better. One of the most interesting balances that they've done is they have changed Hoarfrost Stomp, which is an Ash of War, which is basically a sort of ability you can equip onto a weapon. And they have reduced its damage and increased its cast time, which means it's not quite as easy to use. And that has been a really key ability for speedrunners. So the past week, we write one story on a speedrun, within minutes it's been broken by seconds. And a lot of people have been using this ability because I think ultimately it doesn't, again, if you haven't played it, this won't mean too much, but it does a base amount of damage that's very high without scaling to your weapon. So it means you don't need to waste your level ups on scaling. You can just use this ability and do loads of damage. The fact that they've nerfed that a little bit is quite interesting because I think it will affect the speedrunning scene. And that's the end of my spiel on that.
I just like the fact that you included that we have covered Elden Ring. Ed, you have covered Elden Ring. Tell everyone, how many stories have you written so far?
I think 29.
I've done 2.
We're all in it.
It's inescapable, isn't it? It's absolutely the game of the moment, and we'll talk a bit in a bit about just how well it has done and what we might see next for it. But this patch is fascinating to me because you mentioned, Ed, that some of these quests are going to be things that they were working on prior to it. They haven't just started and finished these things in the last 2 weeks. That's just not how these things work. What was interesting to me is that they have taken this decision to add the NPC markers in. And I'm just curious, Ishrak, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Like, when a game comes out, how much do you think changes like this are reflective of how the developer feels, and how much at this point, we're 2 weeks out, do changes like this reflect the community, or even stuff that came out just prior to releasing reviews? What were your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting question. I mean, this game had a lot of discourse around UI, and I mean, there's discourse in general about this game. It's the game of the moment. It's a good question. I don't think FromSoft is the type of developer to change things based on community feedback. I do think that they genuinely felt this was a nice quality life update. And as Ed was saying, that people found this game quite refreshing because you can just explore and there are no quest logs and things like that. So I think it's about striking the right balance between having nice quality of life things like the NPC markers, so you know where everyone is, but not overwhelming you with just menus and dots and markers and everywhere. So actually, looking at the two sort of sides, I think they have found the right balance between not overwhelming with everything, but also just giving you nice little things just so you can, get around the game a little bit.
When
easier.
do you think?
Yeah, this doesn't miraculously turn it into an Ubisoft game. Like, to add,
exactly.
It's quite subtle. Just a few little extra icons. It's not like
They didn't patch in towers.
The icons I take it though are only visible when you're like in the map. It's not like you're sort of seeing like dots across your vision.
No. You can add your own custom markers which do appear on the compass. But yeah, this is purely in the map. You have to zoom in quite far to see them.
I'd just be really curious to know when the decision was made to add these in. Was it something that they were going to do prior to launch? I mean, that would be fascinating, that this was just not something that they'd finished polishing up. And then the fact that these things weren't in there was part of the whole discourse around, this is what a Souls game is like. This is what the gameplay is like. It's people are making apps to track this stuff rather than it being in the game, but it's very optional. And then the decision is now, we'll add this in the first patch and throw everyone off. It's a fascinating thing. I would love to know when the call was made that this was something that they actually wanted to enable in the game, or whether it was something that they planned all along and people thought the lack of them was an intentional design decision on their part. With a game like this that's created so much discussion, it's fascinating.
From what you guys have all seen on sort of Twitter and various other discussion boards, are they happy with this, or are they mostly disappointed? And are they talking more about the map, the NPCs, or are they more talking about the sort of leveling rebalance?
From what I've seen, it's much more it's people saying they've nerfed my gear and my build is now broken.
Yeah, I think there's another ability that I think's been nerfed a little bit. Yeah, they've increased Bloody Slash's self-inflict damage, which again will mean nothing if you haven't played it.
Is that blood magic?
Essentially, yeah. So
Okay.
you cause blood damage to your opponent, but it also hurts you in the process.
Okay, yeah.
And they've increased the amount that it hurts you, so you can't just rely on it. It is, again, quite a powerful ability. I've noticed with the speedruns, a lot of them are choosing to play as the samurai class at the start because you get a weapon that causes bleed damage, and that basically sort of damages enemies over time, which can be quite powerful. So I think that's these sort of blood spells and blood weapons are definitely, again, favoured by the speedrunning community. So I don't know if these changes are a reaction to those speedruns directly, or if it's just something they've noticed and wanted to change.
Was there anything in the patch today around that exploit to pause the game? Have we seen anything about that? Because I think so far no one has said anything, and I just wondered if that was something.
I've forgotten about that.
Was that an exploit? Was that a feature?
It was like jumping through various menus. Yeah.
It was buried like 2 menus deep, so it was not something that you could necessarily. It wasn't signposted like the tutorial. Just to evoke that controversy.
I think as well with these balance changes, I think there's also there's a couple of points. I think there's the sense of, Miyazaki himself has said we want people to explore different builds and try different abilities and things and not be stuck down one path. So, maybe people become too reliant on a certain strategy, and actually this is a way of rebalancing that to say, well, maybe mix things up and try things out a little bit more. Which I think is a good thing. The other thing is what it means for PvP. There's already a PvP mode in terms of invading people. Maybe they've seen that invaders are using these abilities too much. But what we've also seen are the colosseums around the map. And people have sort of dug in and looked at what might be in these colosseums because they're currently closed. And there are thoughts that maybe this could be DLC, it could be a PvP mode in DLC, and maybe these rebalances are actually, ahead of that potential PvP stuff coming in.
Yeah, Bandai Namco and From Software have not talked at all yet about what to expect down the line in terms of extra bits and pieces. And there's the Colosseum stuff which we've reported on. Ed, you've done some stuff on that. Things that people have found in the DLC, those areas are seemingly waiting in the wings for PvP stuff to be added there. But it's we really don't know what else is going to come down the line. It'd be interesting to see.
But it's a franchise now, so more is coming.
Yeah. So earlier this week we had the news that it's done an extraordinary number of sales. 12 million copies in 2 weeks is just astonishing.
Amazing.
That would be good numbers for an Assassin's Creed, part of a storied franchise with a loyal fan base. And you could make that point about Elden Ring. People love Souls games, but they've never loved Souls games like Elden Ring. This is the Skyrim moment for Souls games, just as Skyrim took the Elder Scrolls series made it mainstream. It's an incredible number. And then you have Bandai Namco and From Software talking about it being the start of a new franchise. Victoria, are you surprised that this extremely well-selling game is now being talked of as part of a wider thing?
Not really. No, I mean, I know we've all discussed it before. There was so much hype around it and everything, and it has, obviously got the George R.R. Martin element behind it as well. So I think even from pre-release, everyone was engaging with what is Elden Ring. So I think the numbers are phenomenal, but I don't think it's surprising that it's doing well.
If you were sat in Bandai Namco HQ right now, would you be pressing the Elden Ring 2 button?
I'd like to give it a slightly more snappy name, but which I can't think of at the moment, but let me get back to you on that one.
It would be Elden Ring with like one of the letters replaced by a 2.
Oh yeah, I'm just picturing like Too Fast, Too Furious, but I don't know how you would manage to get
Two
that.
Elden, two
Two
Ring.
Elden, two Ring.
Two Elden. Oh, no.
No, I think it's done wonderfully though, and I mean I've not played it myself just because I want to be able to give it the time that I feel it deserves, and I don't have that at the moment. But every stream or clip that I've seen, including Ed streams, everybody have been amazing and so engaging.
Don't watch me.
Can I just tell everyone a little story? I was watching Ed stream, and he defeated a boss and screamed so loudly, my husband came downstairs to check that I was okay.
I love
that.
this.
Was the energy that was in there.
It brings out the best and worst in us.
And Victoria then shared that clip the next day to all of us. It was...
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So, I mean, given that Elden Ring can evoke such passion and energy in a streamer, I think that speaks literal volumes.
Was it that your TV was were you watching on a TV or a computer? I don't know, but like, was it that your volume was turned up quite loud, or was it Ed's volume?
It was Ed's volume. I had it at the same volume I chat with you guys. It was just playing as I was cooking dinner, and Ed was just so pleased with himself for beating this boss that, yes, my husband thought we were being attacked.
I mean, we, as a collective team, we kind of were by whatever boss Ed was defeating, and fair play to Ed for it.
Thank you.
I was very glad to share that moment with you.
It was an optional boss as well. It wasn't even massively difficult.
Yeah, it wasn't like Margaret or anything. It was
But it was a non-optional scream.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, I think it is interesting as well what this might mean for like Dark Souls going forwards. I mean, in a sense, Elden Ring is very much a step on from Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them returning to Dark Souls now. I think Elden Ring might be sort of the next maybe trilogy if Dark Souls was, and then there'll be something else down the line. What does this mean for potential Bloodborne 2? Does this mean that Sekiro was a one-off? Are they working on something else? Or are they going to just focus now on Elden Ring as the main series?
I think if they have any financial sense, then they will.
Yeah.
Also, game publishers just don't like putting out numbers on boxes beyond 3. Like, after that, people just think, oh no, I have to play Dark Souls 1 and 2 to understand Dark Souls 3 and 4, so they don't do it. But yeah, we had these comments this week saying it's the start of a new franchise, and also mildly ominously that we will continue our efforts in expanding the brand beyond the game itself and into everyone's daily life. Which, I mean, maybe you're playing Elden Ring as part of your daily routine and you just fancy an ice cream every morning. I don't know, but does that suggest that it is then going to be wider than video games? And it kind of makes sense, right? Like, Ishraq, what would you, if you're sat in Bandai Namco HQ right now, what other buttons are you pushing? Like, where do you think this brand may go?
I think, well, the obvious one's the TV series, right? Everyone's making a TV series. Have George R.R. Martin in there as well. We'll have the Game of Thrones we wanted.
Just more things for him to delay Winds of Winter.
Yeah. I mean, that's all he does anyway. But actually, the first thing that popped in my head was like fridge magnets. Like that's what I was
Aw.
thinking. Just like tat and merch, like pencil
Oh, a little
cases. I
Melina
don't know.
just popped up.
You never
Is this
know.
because we said,
Yeah.
like, what does it mean, like, that they're going to stick an Elden Ring monster in your fridge or something? Maybe.
Yeah. And that's how fridge magnets.
Battle
popped
for
in
your
my head. I was
daily
like,
orange juice.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Obviously, there's the merchandise route. TV series makes a lot of sense. I don't know. Is it a film? Is it a TV series? It's an anime, isn't it? Like, it's going to be a Netflix anime series.
It's a Netflix anime.
Yeah.
I think the problem with those things, though, is that the story is so subtle and minimal in the game. It's not, as with all the Souls games, it's something that's sort of done through lore and background information and item descriptions. There's not a huge amount of like the core story. So maybe that is a way for them to experiment and build in a story for a TV show or something. Yeah,
There's potential there. I mean, I was thinking about Arcane. I mean, League of Legends doesn't really have a plot at all, but Arcane was phenomenal, wasn't it? So there's definitely potential there for
You
them to
just
expand
took,
on the story.
The thought out of my head there, which, right, like, it's Arcane is such a good show that stands on its own, but is also part of the wider world. And I think with Elden Ring, you know, what they could conceivably do is like a prequel series which just exists in the world. So it's part of the brand. It pushes the brand. It keeps the brand in people's heads between game releases. But it stands on its own, and it also informs people who want to play those games, so that, you know, that item description that you picked up, or that sword that you clung to for 30 hours and really helped you, like, that's named after some vague character in the mythos, and that character might be in the TV show, and, you know, you get those connections, but you don't need to play the game to watch the show, and vice versa.
a lot of the story happened in the past, which you get in a cutscene at the beginning. So they could just expand on that.
Very Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I mean, that's a great shout. And then, you know, Elden Ring Monopoly, Elden Ring in Fortnite. The usual
What
stuff.
would be Elden Ring's
yeah.
blue,
When is that
blue
happening?
squares on the Monopoly board?
The blue squares. So that's like kind
Is
of
that, what's
mid-tier.
the one like? No, what's the one like you just before go?
Oh, you mean the Mayfair square, like the dark blue?
Yeah, what would be that?
What's at the end of the game?
It will be the big castles where the Great Lords are.
Would that be
what would
the
be
train
the sort of-
stations? You could have 4 of them around the board.
No, I think they'd be the merchants, maybe.
Go to jail as you die, obviously.
Of course.
I think what's the you know how like I loved that Bloodborne had prey slaughtered and that sounded so badass. Like what does it say? Is it just something felled?
Oh, it's great enemy felled or something like that. Great, yeah, something I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's no prey
It does
slaughtered.
come up with something.
Prey slaughtered was good.
70% of players have beat the first major boss. Speaking of bosses, do we think that that's a lot? I think that's a decent figure if you're talking about 12 million players.
I think it's really impressive for a game that, you know, many have sort of perhaps considered as being too hard. I think 70% is an amazing number because that's not an easy boss from what I've heard.
I mean, it depends if you're a mage or not.
All 70% of them are mages.
All other classes are 30.
I think what is interesting, it is the first major boss. It's definitely the first kind of wall that you hit. But you could just run straight into that boss within an hour or within 30 minutes if you're speedrunning. But I don't think I got to that until maybe like 10 hours in because I went and explored elsewhere and did a load of other stuff. So that 70% of people will be a mixture of people who did go straight to it and people who also went off and explored. So it's not like, oh, they played it for 10 minutes and beat a boss and carried on. It could be they've played it for 10 hours and stuck with it. Or it could be they've just played it for 20 minutes and rushed through and got to that bit. So that's a real mixture of different people who have done that.
Here's a question for you, Ed. If you explore and you do all the side stuff, does that make I'm assuming that makes your character stronger, so when you do eventually encounter the first boss, it's a lot easier.
Yes. I mean, you still need to understand the strategy. You have to understand the attack patterns and things. but yeah, you will inherently be stronger.
I think that's part of the testament to Elden Ring, though, the fact that you could go straight there, or you could go and explore for 10 hours and then go there. So, I mean, I think that's, another reason why Elden Ring has done so well.
There have been a few other stories that I've really loved this week from Elden Ring things, including the horse, which you wrote about, Victoria.
I did. That was one of mine.
What attracted you to that story?
Just because I just thought it was really funny. Can I say the name? Is it a spoiler if I say the name on here?
Think it's the name of a horse. I don't think that knowing the name of the horse changes your experience in the game.
Well, here's
I just think it's really funny that. Okay, spoiler warning, PSA, please close your ears if you don't want to hear. I just love the fact that this whopping, great, big, terrifying boss has a tiny horse called Leonard. And I just think it's so charming to think of, this big general with, Leonard feeding him carrots and sugar cubes and whatever else. I think it's really cute.
Do you think
it's also cute when you see them in battle, then you feel quite sorry for the horse, but...
Do you think From Software gave the horse that name deliberately as a bit of a joke, or do you think that they thought that was
juxtaposition?
That was genuinely quite a fearsome name?
It might be kind of was it not Final Fantasy XIV where something got lost in translation and they thought Clive was a really strong warrior name? So maybe Leonard means something else somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah. Clive is your dad's name.
Clive is my uncle's name. And I just Clive. It's not really I'm gonna slay some demons. I'm Clive.
What's funny as well is that Leonard isn't, as far as I'm aware, the name isn't actually I haven't got that far. Isn't it actually named in the game? It's just in the files.
It's the files, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to imagine that actually George R. R. Martin came up with a name and they just thought that's a shit name for a horse and just cut it.
Yeah, this one didn't make the cut. Sorry, George. But I love Leonard.
One of the few things in the game that's not named
Leonard.
after his initials.
Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't make the cut into the game.
Speaking of cut content, Ed, you just did a story this morning on something that players have found in the game that is seemingly unavailable. What was that?
Pants.
Pants? Are we talking American pants, like trousers, or British pants?
No, we're talking sexy lingerie.
Oh.
Yeah. If that's your thing. It's cut content. It is. Hang on, let me get the name. Just to be exact, they are known as the Deathbed Smalls.
Deathbed Smells.
Now there are. Sorry.
The Deathbed Smells. What did you say?
Smalls.
Oh.
Maybe they do smell.
That's a whole other level of immersion that you're going into.
Very potent.
Yeah. There is an armor, or there was believed to be an armor set known as the Deathbed armor set. And there is a dress in the game called the Deathbed dress. And I believe it also refers back to a character called Fia, who hugs you and gives you a debuff that no one realized. And it appears that these underwear are worn by her. And you can get it yourself in the game if you cheat, if you're on PC and you want to run around in a thong. I mean, it's not as if you can't already wear underwear. There's a starting class called the Wretch that literally just has a rag. So you are basically naked, but with a rag. But now you can wear a thong.
Lovely. This game really has something for everybody.
Exactly.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, I expect many more stories about Elden Ring to come as we find out about DLC and PvP and Elden Ring 2 and Elden Ring fridge magnets probably down the line.
Guaranteed.
Too Ring, Too Furious.
Followed up by Elden Ring Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Leonard Drift.
The Drift.
It's worth mentioning the other big game out this week, which is Tunic, which launched and brilliantly came to Game Pass. And I've played a little bit. It's adorable and also pretty hard. Like I think it's like Elden Ring for Zelda fans, and but I really love it. I've had my eye on it for ages and ages, and if you have Game Pass, you should definitely go give it a go. But it's out on all platforms, I think. Yeah,
It's a Eurogamer essential, so definitely check it out.
indeed.
I'd say if Elden Ring is Souls meets Breath of the Wild, then this is Souls meets Link's Awakening.
I was going to say Fox's Awakening, yeah.
It's a great shout, yeah. It's very much got that sort of isometric top-down look that the chibi Link's Awakening remake had a few years ago on Switch. But it isn't afraid to kill you over and over again. I think it's relatively fair, but it's not easy.
I thought it was going to be easier than it is, which I'm not complaining about it. It was a welcome surprise. But yeah, I was kind of like, I'm just going to have a like little donder around, and I was like, oh my god, I'm dying like all the time. What are these? Because I mean, at first they look quite innocent. The first things that come up to attack you, they're like little blobs. And then there's one that like full on roundhouses you. It was just like, god.
Yeah, I mean, like Link's Awakening, you start on a beach at the beginning, and then you're like, right, I need to go and get a sword and shield, and then it gives you a stick.
Yes.
And then you have to go and beat enemies with a stick, and I just ran past them. I was like, give me the sword. I need to find the sword.
Yeah, I did have to cheese it a few times just to progress, but it's lovely. I really liked it. And when I first got to the little merchant bit, have you guys seen the merchant?
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, it's so good. Those were the actual noises I made.
Ah, so it's not just me then.
I mean, you don't see my husband bursting through the door, so it wasn't that
loud. We've gone full circle.
The full Elden Ring.
It's great. I don't want to say too much about it because I think it's just come out and people are still discovering it, and it's very much a game to discover. Earlier this week, we had a meeting where Chris Donlan, who's written our review, rated it essential, was very keen not to spoil, even minor aspects of the game to do with like the pages that you get, which is known about, and that's all I'll say. But yeah, like there's a lot of secrets hidden away, and I'm really looking forward to finding out more of them as time goes on.
This isn't a spoiler, but one thing I really liked about it was how it sounded. Like it had a really sort of soothing aura, which I thought was really nice. Like it was really nice. Like I got into my pajamas and I snuggled down with hot chocolate, and it had a really nice vibe to it for an evening.
Agreed.
I talked to the developer a couple of months ago, and I said we've basically not really seen much of the game, have we? Like every time they did a demo last year, they've been showing off at trade shows for years and years and years. It's been worked on for ages, trying to get it refined and polished, and clearly they've done a great job of that. But we've still, like, you've only ever seen one bit of the game, and there is so much more to it, from what I understand. But they were like, yeah, we just haven't. That's all to be shown down the line. We're not going to put it in trailers. We're not going to shout about what you might unlock later.
It was funny, actually. My husband, because I was so excited when I saw it, like it was ready to install on Games Pass. He's like, why are you so excited for this game? And I was like, I don't really know, but I am. Because like we've seen so little of it, but I knew I wanted to play it. It's quite amazing when you see other marketing that has been so in your face with the marketing. This one's been... I wasn't going to name names, but yes. But
any Sony game.
But like it has been so subtle, and yet there's still been the sort of anticipation around it.
Yeah, for sure. I think
it shows confidence in the game.
Yeah, it's confidence in the game. You can take 6 years to make a game. It's gonna be good. It will release when it's ready, and now it's out, and it's like, yeah, clearly that time was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So go play it. That's our very easy recommendation this week, thanks to Chris Donlan and a few of us dabbling around in it. But yeah, thank you for joining us as ever. We'll be back, I'm sure, soon to talk about yet more Elden Ring, the gift that keeps on giving, and maybe we'll have got a bit further in Tunic. But thank you, everybody, for joining me, and thank you for watching. If you've sat through this far at home, congratulations. And we'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.